be having Beth here today. And Beth, I'm going to say that she is lines up with us because she's an environmental leader before she even thought about coming into politics, or at least before she entered into politics, and became our representative for LD22 folks. She certainly lives into the homeless issue and affordable health care, and with some she's been endorsed by the National Indivisible group, and I think that's with a little bit of good effort on some of our good friends right in Olympia Indivisible that took that off and run into some of our allies to the north and around. So, and she's also, a good friend and ally of Olympia Indivisible, and has been. She's for the Green New Deal. She's Medicare for All. Her website's right there to be found. It's pretty easy at BethDoglio.com, and there's a lot of good info about Beth on that website. So we have the next slide. There are some differences to be had, and I'm glad this slide's up here. I don't mean for Beth to have to tell us all the differences, though I suspect there's some questions that people want to know. And we look at healthcare, that's a biggie right there, Medicare for All versus incremental improvements of the ACA. And Beth is certainly for stronger unions. Ms. Strickland has in the past advocated for free trade. And that could be made into a circle of strengthening unions, but it's not really what's been in the past. Fair taxes, that, is kind of glaringly. I mean, she opposed taxes as CEO for the Seattle Chamber of Commerce on Amazon. And whereas, Beth knows that corporations and the wealthy CEOs need to pay their fair share. And most of all, Beth is for, good family wages and family leave, and strengthen the folks that really do the work out in our world. And, that's, I think, hands down where we're at as far as the big difference between these two. And I'm sure there is a lot more than what is listed here. So, and we have the next slide up. This is just came in to me from Beth's field director, that they now have about 500 postcards that are in need of writing, and they have them in batches of 30. And this is at the Democratic campaign office downtown. And if you go to our website, you'll be able to, find, if you have questions, you'll find Caitlin's number, I believe, will be there, or how to contact her, or you can contact me, because you can certainly find that on the website as well, and I will get you to where you need to be to get those postcards. And they have a complete package deal where you get the postcards, you get the stamp, you get mailing labels, and you just have to fix the message. And they even will give you samples if you need, some kind of help on what to write. So, and hello, Beth, and hello, Bailey. Welcome.
Thank you.
Somewhat somber evening, because I assume you've all heard the news. I'm sure you have.
Oh, I'm just devastated. But this is not a time to let up on our passion and our work and our giving money and it's even more important now. I think we need to have a really clear and consistent message from the left. This is no time to be nominating and putting a Supreme Court justice on the court's highest bench. And I think it's going to be really important for us to come together and send that message loud and clear and work on. Apparently, Lisa Murkowski has said she will not vote this close to an election. So that means we need to find 3 more, because Pence could break the tie. So I think unfortunately, hopefully it will be after the election that all this will take place. But we'll have to have a very coordinated, organized campaign to try and make sure that we don't lose all of the progress that we've made on LGBTQ rights, on abortion rights, on protections for the environment, on so many things that are at stake with the higher court. And I would also say, it's even more important that we elect progressives to at all levels of government, right? Like, we are going to have a very strong progressive movement, and we cannot stop. I know that she would want us to be here tonight thinking about how we are organizing and how we are going to win in November, as hard as it must be for all of us. I know it's hard for me to be here. I just want to go crawl up and put my head, but we can't do that. We just cannot do that.
Right.
We have to keep organizing. So let's just get on with it. I mean, the campaign is going really well. I have picked up a number of good endorsements. The tribes have really come on board. And so, you know, I have a whole list of tribes across the state that are weighing in and helping out. And I'm meeting with the Puyallups. But I have a really strong Ramona Bennett, a former tribal chair, is, you know, with the Puyallups, and she is, you know, just furious that they haven't acted to date. So she is putting pressure on them, which is really great. I picked up the American Federation of Teachers, and I'm very, fingers crossed, hopeful that I'm going to get the Washington Education Association. The Teamsters have come on board. I'm going to be announcing that Jamal Bowman from New York is endorsing me next week. And so, you know, we're just continuing to, I was on the phone with Justice Dems today. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but that's another possibility. And then, of course, Sunrise. And it was really awesome because Sunrise, I don't know, they must have had 20 young people on the phones today. And it was so heartwarming to see them all from all over the country, you know, pitching in and reaching out to voters across the district with persuasion calls. So we are still doing phone banks on Saturdays at 10 and Tuesdays at 5. And we're planning on doing literature drops. Of course, we haven't been doing that because of the smoke. And you know, we're working hard every single day. It will just continue to add things as we progress towards the election. Ballots are dropped on October 9th. So we are not very far away from the Thurston County ballots being dropped into the mail. And we have only 46 days to go until November 3rd. What else can I tell you? Maybe just to open it up to questions. But I will say, you know, what's been happening to our planet on the West Coast with the fires burning, it's devastating. People have lost their lives and their livelihoods. Full towns have been wiped out, right? It happened to coincide with an event that Bill McKibben, who endorsed me, did. It also coincided with our sort of general election kickoff. So there's been a lot of momentum and, you know, people really, you know, people coming out of the woodworks to support this climate champion. And, you know, my opponent supported the methanol plant, the largest methanol plant in the world that they wanted to build in Tacoma. She stood in the way of a $15 minimum wage campaign, a $15 minimum wage and sick day campaign. She was the CEO of the Seattle Chamber, and while there, she was the lead campaign person to stop the corporate tax to help with to build housing and to help with our homelessness issue in Seattle. And, you know, contrast that with me in the legislature working on a bill to provide cities and counties access to $1.5 billion across the state to build housing for the very poor and to provide mental health services. It's a really stark choice, and we really need to get that message out there. And that's what our campaign is going to be focused on over the next few months. People need to know her record. Her record is one of siding with corporations and not standing up for working people. And we are going to make that very clear to the electorate. So
Thank you.
now I will take questions.
Okay. Well, on that vein, I've got a good question here to start off with, and it has a little background, so everybody's going to have to listen. In August 2020 report examining the impact of COVID-19 on health insurance, the Economic Policy Institute, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan American think tank that carries out economic research and analyzes the economic impact of policies and proposals, and they found that 6.2 million American workers have lost access to their health insurance they previously got through their employers. Now, this is back in August. This also means that their spouses and dependents lost coverage. And the report estimates that as a result, close to 12 million Americans have been cut off from their employer-sponsored health insurance up to August of this year, and it's during a pandemic. The Economic Policy Institute concludes that the inefficiencies and problems caused by the U.S. system of tying access to health insurance to specific jobs has been starkly exposed by COVID-19. And delinking access to health insurance from specific jobs should be a top policy priority. They advocate making the federal government the primary insurer for all Americans through a single-payer system. And we know, Beth, you are on record as supporting the creation of such a public single-payer system. Your opponent instead proposes raising the age from 26 to 30, where young adults can stay on their parents' policies. She advocates lowering the Medicare eligibility age from 65 to 55 and adding a public option to the ACA. The question, how does your approach to health insurance compare with Ms. Strickland's in addressing the crisis that 12 million plus Americans who have lost their workplace health insurance? How does your approach differ?
Well, first of all, we start with the fact that my approach delinks health insurance from employment. We can see clearly that that is not working. It hasn't been working. Sure, the ACA was, at the time, a better option than what we had, but that is not the case now. We have got to move as rapidly as possible to a single payer system, a Medicare for all. We've got to expand Medicare so that it covers vision, dental, and hearing, and also provides long-term care. That is something that this country is not doing very well at, and we want to make sure that seniors have as many options to stay in their homes. And actually, that is something that was negotiated, that Representative Pramila Jayapal negotiated into Biden's plan, which of course doesn't go far enough either. And it makes it even more important that in a safe Democratic district, we have a progressive voice that clearly supports single-payer system Medicare for all. Because the more voices we have, like Representative Pramila Jayapal, who's in the room negotiating on the Biden-Sanders unity team, she didn't come out with Medicare for all, but she came out with some pathways to help us get closer to Medicare for all in terms of what's now in Biden's plan. And that does include moving people as they're coming off of insurance because of the pandemic onto a public option, onto Medicare. So that's, look, Medicare currently serves the biggest risk pool, right? Seniors have the biggest risk, and they're the most expensive people to insure. Just imagine if we expanded the risk and made the risk pool less by moving more and more people onto Medicare. It becomes cheaper. We get more services. The administrative costs of what we have right now, it's like it 2 times what any other, the administrative costs for our current system is 2 times what any other peer country has right now. We can provide care for people, every single person in this country, much better, cheaper, and with more access. Rural hospitals, for example, they're constantly on, but if they had a steady stream of Medicare dollars, rural hospitals would stand to benefit. So anyway, that's my approach is like super different. You know, a public auction actually makes things more expensive. It's not the direction that we want to go. It's sort of half baked. And, you know, we already have a system that works, that people like, that needs to be expanded. And that's the way we should go. I'm very, 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 very committed to a single payer system.
Thank you. Another good question here is, what are your thoughts about carbon pricing, and most especially carbon fee and dividend as the first step to the Green New Deal?
So I think we get the Green New Deal, you know, I think we get the Green New Deal from a very, very large stimulus package to put people back to work. There are so many jobs tied up that we can offer, good union jobs, to transform the way we deliver energy to people's homes. So a cap and dividend, I mean, I would be, if we have the votes to get a cap and dividend across the finish line in DC, I'm all for it. I think we do need a cap. I think we need an economy-wide cap, an economy-wide tax. And, you know, I think there are arguments that those dollars should go towards, you know, towards creating that transition and investing in that transition. I also think there are good arguments that if you build it in and bake it into people's expectations around how a cap and trade or a cap and dividend works, that it builds public support for it and helps us, and helps it be more, you know, less open to people when we don't have control of both bodies or the presidency. It's not as open to being turned around, you know, to being ditched by people who are still denying climate change. I don't know how you could deny climate change at this point. So I'm fairly agnostic around how we cap and tax and what we do with those. I do think we need an economy-wide, you know, tax of that taxes all sectors of the economy on emissions. I'm less concerned about where the money goes, but we're going to have to find money to create the transformation. And so that is one option. But I think we do need a sector by sector decarbonization of our economy, where we are addressing the electric sector and moving to, you know, fossil free by 2035 is what my plan calls for. I think we need to, you know, make all of our buildings more efficient, and the new buildings that we're building need to be fully equipped with solar and you know, and electric vehicle charging stations. And then we need to move our transportation system onto the electric grid, or find cleaner fuels, or, you know, the hydrogen. I mean, I think there's all kinds. And then we need to build out our mass transit, and you know, make it much easier for people to get around cities and towns. And then there's the whole other side of it, which is we actually need to suck carbon out of the air. We've put so much up there that we need to look at the whole way that we do farming in this world, in this nation, in this world, how we deal with food waste, how we are, you know, I mean, we're recreating estuaries that suck, you know, the blue carbon, and we have to do adaptation measures as well. I mean, people on the coasts, indigenous communities on the coast, are being moved further inland. And so there's a lot of work to do just around plain adapting to this. And we need to figure out our forest management systems. You know, there's just too much dry, dead wood in our forests right now, and we need to invest dollars into making our forests more manageable and less apt to burn as they are burning right now.
All right, thank you. Little quick follow-up. This should be a fairly short answer because we're phone banking. What would your short version be that you could say at phone banking, talking to somebody for 15 seconds about climate?
That the stakes are high and we can't afford to wait to elect. You know, we need to elect someone who is taking climate change seriously, has experience standing up to the fossil fuel industry, and actually passing and leading on policies that significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Washington State, and she wants to bring that to Washington, D.C.
Correct. Wow. What do you think about the carbon capture technology bill currently in the Senate?
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
The U.S. Senate?
That's what I assume. I don't know anything about it either, so.
I'm all for carbon capture unless it's like, trying to make coal, that sort of sequestration.
I didn't know there was anything going on in the Senate. I think Mitch is sitting higher and higher. And all.
Is it about, who wrote this? Is it about, anyway, yeah.
I get past and it says to me privately, so I'm not going to be able to tell you that. But okay. In the primary, almost 40% of Thurston County voters chose a woman of color as their choice to represent them in D.C. Only 22% supported you and Marilyn Strickland, who came in first in the CD10 primary. There's only 4,000 votes behind you in your own county. What's your plan to catch up and pass? And why should a voter of color support you over a woman of color?
So, this is obviously the most challenging part of this race. I have, it's been a very hard emotional thing for me because I care so much about racial justice, and we are in a time where there is the opportunity to really make significant change on issues of racial justice in this country. No question about it. And I'm very committed to working to bring down the institutions that allow racism to continue and to hold down people because of the color of their skin. It's wrong. We have to change it. Black Lives Matter. Period.
Brown Lives Matter.
Now,
Purple Lives Matter.
I think that we live in a democracy, and what we have is this sort of inverted situation in this state, because what we've seen across the country is we've seen people of color who are very progressive, Jamal Bowman, Mondaire Jones, Cori Bush, who have actually, won, Richie Torres. They've all won their elections running as the more progressive person of color. And in this race, I'm a more progressive person by a long shot than my opponent, who is a person of color. And ultimately, it is up to the voters to make the decision as to whether or not it's more important in the 10th Congressional District to have a person who holds progressive values, who has stood by workers and has worked to lift up working people through programs like our paid family and medical leave program, by supporting the initiative that increased the minimum wage and mandated paid sick days, that introduced the first bill of her career, that's me, on police accountability, House Bill 1000, while my opponent, as the mayor, really oversaw a police organization where a lot of things went without the city council and the mayor, holding that police department accountable. And it's important to have representation, right? Like, that is an important thing. I wrote a paper about women in politics, and I wrote about how important role models are. And it's also important to have that representation in the room. And so, it's really up to the voters. And I hope that people will choose someone with my values, and recognize the policies and the work that I've done as a legislator and as an advocate. But I can certainly understand not making that choice. And I will say there are a number of people of color who are supporting me because they value values over, Marilyn being a person of color. So Jamal Bowman, like I said, is endorsing me. Pramila Jayapal is one of my strongest supporters. She is doing more for my campaign because she recognizes that that the path to progressive policy runs through districts like the 10th. They run through districts like the 10th. It's a safe Democratic district. We shouldn't have a status quo Democrat in it. We shouldn't have a corporate Democrat in it if we are serious about moving progressive policy. But again, it comes down to, we live in a democracy, and people, the voters of the 10th will need to make that decision.
Thank you.
And it's tough. It's tough. It's been very emotionally challenging for me.
Mhm.
Because we are among friends. Oh, I'm recorded again. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm being really frank and honest and open.
That's what we like. Negotiations for another package of federal relief are ongoing. What is your position on compromise with the Republicans? Should the Democrats stand firm on the current $2.2 trillion proposal, or take whatever the Republicans are willing to offer, given the dire straits of many struggling families right now? And what would be the political implications involved?
I'm just looking at, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the Senate passed a bill. I don't think the Senate is offering us anything to negotiate to, right? Like
Right. What I know is they had a $300 billion that was, that the general.
But they didn't pass it. They didn't have the
Right.
votes to pass it.
Right.
So we're not negotiating with anything right now. So I think at this point we need to stand firm on what we passed through the HEROES Act, and the Senate needs to get their asses in gear and pass some relief for people who are living with nothing right now.
Mhm.
It's unbelievable that the Senate is not taking action. It's simply unbelievable. I just was, I did a TV spot, with a reporter from King 5, and it was, drinks with Chris Daniels, and I chose to go to Dillinger's, because Dillinger's has closed,
Right.
as have many restaurants and businesses throughout this community. Our small businesses are suffering, and the Senate can't pass a relief package. I'm sitting in state legislative meetings where we're talking about, $8.9 billion worth of deficit over the next 3 years. And the Senate is not acting on a relief package. Like, it's not okay. It's immoral. So anyway, that's how I feel about that.
I'm with you 100%. Now we're going to go back to the Medicare for All. Since Biden and Harris, we're going to elect them right on into the White House, and they have already stated they're against Medicare for All. And actually, I think Biden has said he'll veto it. And why should a voter who supports Biden and Harris want to elect someone who opposes, the ticket on this major issue?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Well, why should a voter who supports Biden and Harris want to elect someone, that is not, that is for Medicare for All, when they said they're going to veto it?
So I don't think that, I don't think that we put a person on the moon, or that we have, done anything in this country, created a Social Security program, created the first Medicare program. People thought that was too big of a vision. And I think that, we need to have, in order to make things happen that need to happen, like moving towards a single payer system, we need to have vision, and we need to elect people that have a vision of moving, of moving towards that system. So I think, it's unfortunate that the Biden-Harris ticket aren't supporting Medicare for All, but they have moved closer and closer to it. And I think that people in Congress, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, who are committed to a Medicare for All system, really need to continue to have that vision and to put that vision forward. That's how you make change, is you have a big, bold vision and you keep organizing towards making it happen.
All right, thank you. You have our county prosecuting attorney, John Turnham, Tunheim, if I can get his name right, excuse me, and police union among your endorsements on your website. And Strickland apparently does not, according to the questioner, and that, you know, since Tunheim signed an agreement for Thurston County to share information with ICE, is the endorsement still valid to you with Tunheim, or what's, you know, kind of confusing? How is this consistent with progressive values, I guess, that's the main question here.
Well, first of all, any endorser is not going to share the whole breadth of views that I share. And I'm not going to share all the views that an endorser necessarily, you know, has as well. There's a lot of people on my endorsement list. There's no way. I mean, I don't even, I don't, there's nobody who has the same kinds of views up and down the list. So I have supported John for work that he has done to, you know, on the, you know, moving people, trying to move people out of the criminal justice system and into, you know, more of a, you know, people's court kind of situation. And, you know, some of the reforms that he has made at the county level to really try and move people out of the system have been good. And so, you know, those kinds of things I agree with him on. I do, you know, I have problems with what he, you know, where he went with ICE, and I'm super excited that we are a sanctuary city. And I would say that, you know, my opponent, when she was the mayor, refused to allow Tacoma to be a sanctuary city. She was, you know, too concerned about Trump's threats that around federal funding to stand up and support people in Tacoma in a sanctuary city way. So, you know, that's a difference in that space between my opponent and I. She was also the mayor when the private detention center was cited in Tacoma. And, you know, that is a really unfortunate thing that we have in our community. So that's how I feel on that one.
Okay, thank you. I think we're about out of time, but I do have one final question is, how can we, those of us that are here right now and the rest of the OI, how can we help your campaign?
Well, get on the phones, phone bank, literature drop. We have yard signs down at the Thurston County headquarters. And we're getting some stuff here from Bailey's putting that up there. We've got postcards to write.
Mm-hmm.
Letters to the editor are super helpful. You can just, you know, take a look at things on my website, and if you want to call and talk about that at all, those are all the ways. But I'd say let's not give up. So, yeah, let's not give up.
Good. Yeah, I saw Bailey just put Caitlin's email up. I didn't have that with me when I had him post a little bit earlier. It's on our website that about contacting for the postcards that just came out, because we're big on postcards in OI, but nothing wrong with having you get a bunch of us doing what you requested as far as phone banking, let drops, so forth.
Awesome.
So, well, you free to go, or if you got a few,
all right,
few final words, whatever you want to say. It's up to you right now.
Well, I really, really appreciate, so many of you have been super helpful, and I so appreciate your help, and really just I'm looking forward to November 3rd, and I'm hoping, again, you know, let's just hope that we're going to have a great day that day because we need it. Our kids' futures depend on it. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Beth. Thanks for taking the time out to come speak to us.
All righty.
Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.